It was 11:45 p.m. when Maria clocked in for her night shift at Walmart. The place always felt a little off at this hour. Too big, too empty. The long aisles seemed to stretch endlessly, and the overhead fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, casting a pale glow over the store. Most of the employees hated the night shift, but Maria didn't mind. It was quieter, no crowds to deal with, just the occasional customer, usually someone passing through town or trying to buy something cheap after hours. Tonight seemed like it would be no different. Her task was simple: restock the shelves in the home goods section. She grabbed her cart and headed toward the back of the store, where the aisles seemed to get eerily still. The farther away you got from the entrance, the more the store's ambient noise, distant chatter, registers beeping, faded, leaving only the hum of the lights and the soft squeak of her cart's wheels. Around midnight, the store intercom crackled. Maria glanced up, waiting for the usual announcement that the store would be closing soon. Instead, there was just static. Then, faintly, like it was coming from deep within the static, she heard what sounded like a voice, muffled, almost like a whisper. "Help me." Her stomach dropped. She shook her head, convincing herself it was just the radio system acting up. She pushed her cart further down the aisle, picking up speed, trying to shake the sudden chill that had crept over her. As she stocked a shelf of towels, Maria heard something, a faint shuffle, like footsteps coming from the next aisle over. It was too slow to be another employee, and too close to be someone just passing by. She froze, listening. "Hello?" she called, her voice steady, but with an edge of nervousness. No response. The shuffling continued for a few seconds, then stopped. She walked toward the end of the aisle and peeked around the corner. The adjacent aisle was empty, the fluorescent lights humming softly above. She exhaled, feeling ridiculous for being so jumpy. It's just an old building, she thought. Things creak, lights buzz, no big deal. But just as she turned to go back to her cart, she heard it again. Footsteps. This time, they were right behind her. Maria whipped around, her heart leaping into her throat. The aisle was empty. Her pulse quickened. Maybe it was just her imagination, or maybe there was a customer lurking around. She decided to head back toward the front of the store, hoping to find someone else. But as she moved down the aisle, and the lights at the far end of the store flickered, she stopped in her tracks, staring at the flickering lights, willing them to stay on. One by one, they blinked out, leaving the far end of the store in complete darkness. Maria swallowed hard, gripping her cart for reassurance. The intercom crackled again. "Don't look." Her blood ran cold. The voice was clearer now, soft but insistent. She wanted to believe it was just a prank, maybe a glitch, but something about it felt too deliberate, too real. She glanced around the store, her eyes scanning the aisles, looking for someone, anyone, but the store was eerily still. Suddenly, Maria's cart jerked forward. It didn't feel like a loose wheel or a bump. It felt like someone had pulled it, hard. She let go of it, her hands shaking. "Who's there?" she called, her voice breaking. No response, but this time, from the far end of the dark aisle, she thought she saw movement. A shadow, tall and thin, slipping between the shelves. Maria backed up slowly, her heart hammering in her chest. She had to find someone else. She had to get out of there. She turned and walked briskly toward the employee break room, near the front of the store, her eyes darting back and forth, scanning the aisles for any sign of movement. As she passed the electronics section, she heard something that made her freeze, a low, rasping breath. Right behind her, Maria's body locked up, her skin prickling with fear. She didn't dare turn around. The breathing grew louder, closer. She could almost feel it on the back of her neck. Trembling, she took a slow, shaky step forward, her mind racing. Was it a person? Some kind of prank? But no one had been close enough to follow her, and the store's security cameras should have caught anyone trying to sneak up on her. Just as she reached for her phone, the breathing stopped. Dead silence filled the air. Slowly, painfully slowly, Maria turned around. No one. The aisle was empty. Her chest heaved with relief, but it was short-lived. From the corner of her eye, she noticed something on the security monitor, hanging from the ceiling. She looked up, her heart sinking. On the grainy black and white footage, she saw herself standing in the aisle, alone. But just behind her, a dark figure loomed in the shadows, tall and twisted, its face obscured by darkness. It stood there, unmoving, watching her. Her phone buzzed in her hand, jolting her out of her trance. She looked down at the screen, and her heart nearly stopped. A message. You're not alone. The store lights flickered again, and this time, when Maria looked up, the figure was gone from the monitor. And then, from somewhere deep in the store, she heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, getting closer.